Hi, this is Laura Durbeck-Sky with Tripwire Journal. Thank you so much to the organizers for this important gathering to give continued attention to the attempted genocide of Palestinian people by the Israeli state and their collaborators, including the US. I am so honored to be asked to participate. I was recently listening to a talk by Palestinian poet Mona Aimsadar, who spoke from the perspective of someone who had been in Gaza and chose to leave. I ended up transcribing much of the talk. She spoke about different people in Gaza's relationships to their former homes. Here is how her name was spelled in English, if you would like to look for her. I wrote something for Mona. For Mona. I was trying to recreate home, trying to understand those who never needed to recreate it. Or did they give up? Home didn't arrive till a later time. If home is taken, then it stays longer. It becomes longer within. When you wondered if you would be out on the street despite the actual conditions, the child mind tells you you will be. A host country tells you who you will be, homogenized or without a home. The host isn't the real place, it's homogenized. Mona says, the house itself as a living thing, the house is living inside you, unquote. Somehow the arrangement is still important. Mona says, when you are rooted and belong to only one place, unquote. I arrange the furniture around, yet I never want to move it once it stays. Moving all the stuff, trying to figure out what has mold inside and what is okay. Each hulking furniture reminding you of a relationship, a street corner you found it on, lucky to be in this climate. I now understand the WhatsApp photo that pops up on the phone. Ahmed from Palestine's profile photo was the back of his father's head looking at the house. But this was the new house. Mona says, house was more than concrete, was laughter, was you being a teenager in front of the whole society. Mona says, my family tried to protect me by not allowing me to go back to the house. Mona says, olive tree is a matter of life. When I was a kid, I was raised under olive trees. Mona says, you will be able to design your tent to make it more familiar to your picture of a house. Mona says, the house itself is a living thing. The house is living inside you. Mona says, when you are rooted and belong to only one place. Mona says, being labeled as a ghost. Mona says, house was more than concrete, was laughter, was you being a teenager in front of the whole society. Mona says, cleaning the house, organizing the house, redesigning it, not as a matter of fixing. It was more a continuity. It was more a mindset that I'm not repairing it because I just want to be there or I just want to find a roof. It's more by outlining that if you destroy everything, you are not going to destroy my home. You are not going to destroy my mindset of not allowing you to occupy me as a person. You might occupy the land. Your bulldozers, your tanks are everywhere. Your quiet captures, your drone, all the weapons can kill me, and I am aware of that, but I am resisting, not only because I want to live a decent and peaceful life, because I am not allowing you to take my mind. I am trying to repair my mind, to protect it from your levelization and blaming me as a victim. That's what Mona says. And now I'm going to read a second thing. This is from something called Hyperempathy 2. I felt the joy of a rushing, bashing crowd, but now I feel nothing but roots, plants, hummingbirds coming up to me. I wanted to build a home with freaks and a courtyard. I wanted to change the course of things, but slowly, at the pace of some plant. Tired of the people who had all the space in the mind and no space in the body. She says when she's exhausted, her mind gets more logical. I look over my shoulder. I would love to sit in a field with you all, not exhausted, but resting. I sit at the edge of a cliff, reaching behind me for your hand. I have no ego left. I threw it over. I'm pure energy, like skating with no fear. My legs seize up again. I am numb in my left foot. I'm afraid to get hit by a car. All the cars flipping lanes in front of me. I embrace you because I don't know what to do. I throw my arms around you, car, and I just roll and roll, jump up and out toward the grass. A ton of friends are there. I will always be running with you. We'll never be lonely. We were in the redwoods talking about time management. Made you look. The only direction was look inside after I turned down the volume on the classroom presentation. Protect the time. Blow down from the dream. Lost my place. Curl up from the bow. Your body is a blasting rocket, not bragged on the internet, but just being in real time, a swish, not getting a direct camera angle. The camera documents I am not dead. There are ways that I can move. The rink folks create a rink outside and I go out with them. Nobody special, no star skater, no new discovery, just some trashy alley street sport or trashy rink rat trying to put an outfit together from the piles to not look too poor, to not show the things that have happened to this body or that other body. Look at your hand, proof you have grown. Look at your driver's license, proof you have grown. And I'm here with Joni.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Laura. I'm going to read two things for you today. First, an excerpt from the end of Ghassan Kanafani's Letter from Gaza, which was a short story published alongside his 1936 to 1939 Revolution in Palestine, which the second poem I'm going to read is modeled off of. This Gaza in which we had lived and with whose good people we had spent 7 years of defeat was something new. It seemed to me just a beginning. I don't know why I thought it was just a beginning. I imagined that the main street that I walked along on the way back home was only the beginning of a long, long road leading to Safad. Everything in this Gaza throbbed with sadness, which was not confined to weeping. It was a challenge. More than that, it was something like reclamation of the amputated leg. I went out into the streets of Gaza, streets filled with blinding sunlight. They told me that Nadia had lost her leg when she threw herself on top of her little brothers and sisters to protect them from the bombs and flames that had fastened their claws into the house. Nadia could have saved herself. She could have run away, rescued her leg, but she didn't. Why? No, my friend, I won't come to Sacramento, and I've no regrets. No, and nor will I finish what we began together in childhood, this obscure feeling that you had as you left Gaza. This small feeling must grow into a giant deep within you. It must expand. You must seek it in order to find yourself here among the ugly debris of defeat. I won't come to you, but you, return to us. Come back to learn from Nadia's leg, amputated from the top of the thigh, what life is and what existence is worth. Come back, my friend. We're all waiting for you. Clarification letter, November 2023. To the proles. When I said I love you, I meant free Palestine. When I said the blockade is my boyfriend, I meant free Palestine. You said take this job and shove it, and I felt your proximity. I heard free Palestine. To the enemy. When I said Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, I meant free Palestine. When I said from the river to the sea, I meant Palestine will be free. When I said autumn of your reign, I meant free Palestine. You said vulnerable waterways. I heard land, Wet'suwet'en method, see Ansar Allah, and yes, this intervention is my boyfriend, see the proles. To the poets. When I said Homeric in character, I meant free Palestine. When I said moon at daybreak, when I said ozone layer depletion, when I said my liver's long 21st century, I meant free Palestine. You said world town, I cried for the martyr, meaning free Palestine. To the state. When I said fuck the police, I meant fuck the police. When I said Vietnam to Sri Lanka, when I said Thessaloniki to Tottenham, when I said Santiago to Sacramento, it was our world against yours. I said fuck the police, free Palestine, and I meant it. To the intellectuals. When I said rewild the land, when I said Nakba, you heard thine alabaster cities, and for a moment you were Benjamin perched on the minaret. When I said Ma Nishtana, I meant no, this night is in fact like some of the others. When I said architect of sarcophagi, you said say it again before you die. I meant free Palestine. To the party. When I said a wise brick once said to the window, you said shh, the NPC is speaking. When I said thermal shadow, you heard rules-based order. You said vote Mamdani, not free them all, and I asked, and you said the rules-based order provides mechanisms for updating and amending rule sets. I said the missiles have ghastly names precisely because they are missiles. I meant free Palestine. To the revolutionaries. When I say the proles, I mean some are revolutionaries, some are not. When I say the poets, when I say the intellectuals, I mean the same. When I say everything is at an end, give me your hand so that we may begin again. When I say grant that we may see each other, I mean you, I mean those who want more than another paycheck, another poem, another politician calling for peace. When you've said, I smoked my last cigarette in Nazareth, when you've said expropriation of the expropriators, when you said, I sold my land and took up arms, I believed in you, I heard your phrase. I mean to say there's nothing left to say, yet it still needs to be said. I mean, I said so many things, it all meant nothing if it didn't also mean from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you.
This is Stevie Wood. Thank you to David and Tripwire. Thank you to everyone who's helped organize and who's read and who has listened. I am going to read from a book that was just published last month in a collaboration between 1804 Books and the People's Center for Palestine. It's by a young man in Gaza named Wasim Saeed. I won't say much about the book. He'll tell us himself, but I will just say I'm going to share in the chat after this some links. I hope people will support the book. He also has a fundraiser in support of himself and the other families in Gaza that he writes about. There is also a virtual reading coming up on December 6th that people can register to attend if you'd like to. So I'm going to read the introduction and then another small piece. The book is called Witness to the Hellfire of Genocide, a Testimony from Gaza. Introduction. I didn't plan to write this book like this. And no, I didn't start writing under the bombs, as you might think. I began after the war paused, after the ceasefire in January 2025, when we returned to Beit Hanun, what was left of it. The town was rubble, but we were breathing life again. I came back with one thought, to write what I lived through, to end with hope, with return, with dust, with air, with home, even if the home was just ruins. I imagined the ending would be like dawn after a long night, that moment of walking into our street, breathing in the smell of Beit Hanun, welcoming its people like a mother welcomes a child who almost drowned. But the moment I picked up the pen, the war returned. I didn't finish the first chapter before we were displaced again. This time, it was worse, more violent, more painful. I wrote from my tent, or rather from my despair. I write as I gasp for breath between the shells. I write, and each word might be the last. The sound of planes hasn't stopped. My younger siblings cry from hunger and fear, and all I have are these pages. I didn't write this to make you cry, not for you to tell me, poor you. I write it so I can hang these words around your neck, to make you bear the responsibility of my perspective, the responsibility of knowing, the responsibility of being a witness. This isn't mere literature. It's a testimony under fire. A voice in a time when truth is no longer to be found on screens. A testimony from a wound that refuses to heal so its voice may remain alive. I don't need your sympathy. I need a conscience that hasn't rotted, a human who hasn't turned to stone. I need a reader who won't just close the book and sigh, then go to sip their coffee. I wrote this so the massacre won't be forgotten, so my name remains, so the faces of my siblings remain, the ones who lived through genocide searching for burnt bread or a mattress torn by shrapnel. Read this not as a novel, but as you would read a gravestone. As if a voice from beneath the ground was saying, I was here, and I could have lived, if only you had said something. And I'll read the interlude between the first and second chapters. Dear reader, I've walked you through this journey from Beit Hanun to Al Shifa Hospital, and then the south, from my home to my tent, from the bosom of my family to exile within my homeland. But even after all this, I feel that my story alone is insufficient. I wrote this in order to tell what I had seen, what I had lived through, what I bled from my heart and my memory. But in truth, this war has never been my story alone. Every face I have encountered, every tent I passed by, every eye into which I have gazed, all have stories no less painful than mine. I feel it would be unjust to confine the narrative to only what I had seen. Pain has suffused the whole place. Suffering and sorrow are to be found in every street, every corner, and every tent. That is why I have decided to continue this book in a different way. I will write, yes, but not just about myself. I will open the coming pages to many voices, to faces that the camera never reached, to suffering that was never told, to details that shake the heart more than explosions. I will write each chapter as if it were a witness in a court of justice, a witness to the Zionists' barbarity and crimes. I will write every word as though it were a tombstone, a grave marker for Gaza. I will write every sentence as though it were a cry for help from hell, a cry from a weak, hungry, terrified human being, drowning in the unknown, in suffering and sorrow. I will begin with the most extreme of what we lived through, those days when bread became a dream and food a wish. I will begin a new chapter. I shall name it Hunger and Bread. I'm going to also put in the chat just a request. People are looking, the publishers are looking for translators from Arabic into essentially any language that isn't English, Greek, and Spanish, into which it's already been translated. So that will go in the chat. Thank you all.
Thanks to everyone that's put in all the labor for this. I'm going to read a poem from 2003, just because it happens to mention Palestine. So just thinking about Palestine being on our minds for so many years, for so long. So March 17th, 2003. We slept soundly during the night, beloveds, and when I woke, yous were wrapped around me, and I thought it was this that had let me dream of windows and doors opening and light entering, a relief from my recent dreams that had been so full of occupations. But we wake up, and all we hear in the birds' songs is war. When the birds sing outside our window, they sing of the end of negotiations with the UN, of the Dow soaring on confidence of a short war, of how rebel forces in the Central African Republic have dissolved parliament and suspended the constitution, of the resumption of the trading in oil futures in London after protesters broke into the building and fights broke out on the trading pit. They sing of how someone makes Natalie Maines apologize for her shame that the president of the United States is from Texas, of 7 people killed in Palestine, of drug-resistant pneumonia that continues to spread, and of the worldwide mourning for Rachel Corrie. The birds also sing of how celebrities in Los Angeles are getting their manicures and their hair done, as they always do. Thank you.
Hi, David Book, he, him, here for Tripwire. I tried to put it in the chat, but all proceeds at tripwirejournal.com will go to the Samir Project for the future. I'm going to read some things coming from recent or forthcoming Tripwire projects. The first is a couple poems by Lisa Minerva Lux, who is a participant in Palestine Action, the now outlawed so-called terrorist organization in the UK, and this is forthcoming in Tripwire. The next Tripwire 23, which should be out in soon. How to behave outside court for the Filton 18. Cut to when they took Wasim, chucked him in blacked out TSG. Lex got punched jumping in front of the cop car wheels. Hafsa's bypassed a pig's blood-knuckled hands. Yes, bitch, we trained in back rooms on how to get into formation. Then Umar cussed the cops on a microphone, waving to their body cam. Then Tommy cussed the cops on a microphone. Then dogs and vans, they blocked us back. But here's the matryoshka, a mother whose son was on trial inside, turned to Lady Justice above the Old Bailey, an empire once animated. The cops surrendered, gave us back Wasim, another's freedom nested inside his. Have you been a danger to the empire today for Saeed? The day the CID called my arrest of national interest, I came loyaler to the breadth of shoulders, to carving patterns on the walls of our cells when they corner us. I've seen how the shadows of statues ache. And the best thing I can teach is that almost everything you need to threaten England's trade with heresy can be bought at B&Q. One version of uprising is making amputee of your country. The other is parade. Every brick is pregnant with smashing banks. Don't let friendship get in the way of comrades. Never ask permission from governments you don't respect. And how to break in is how you broke out, with bally and gloves, crowbar, all doubt left back at the safe house. That's Lisa Minerva Lux. Then I'm going to read a short excerpt. This is actually in the last Tripwire, but also from a forthcoming collection or collaborative book the Tripwire put out in the spring from the Shatter Collective based in Beirut. There's an eerie quiet now in Lebanon, though the violence continues here in Palestine and across the region. We are living among monsters, both ancient and newly forged, mythic in their cruelty, mechanized beyond imagination. The weapons that maim our people and scar our land now are not the tools of human conflict, but instruments of annihilation, precise, detached, insidious, and relentless. Language fails in the face of atrocity, but we continue to write. Poetry becomes both exorcism and architecture. We expel what cannot be born, and we construct imperfect vessels for what we cannot bear, for memory, rage, tenderness. Poetry allows us to shape what resists expression, to speak from the fractures. We do not write to make sense of violence, but to mark its weight, to register grief and defiance in lines that tremble with life. Again, that's the Shatter Collective. And lastly, I'll read an excerpt from a chapbook coming out, hopefully as soon as next month. Sorry, I'm just trying to frickin' find it here. From Haitham El Wardani, it's entitled The Difficulties. And this is just an excerpt from Labor of Listening for Marina Vishmit after Sean Bonney. And my apologies for any mispronunciations. The dead, they sing with severed tongues, and they have a plan to bring us back to the land, despite their murderers. Do you remember the stone I wrote you about? I woke up this morning and I found it again in my palm. I felt its smooth surface, and I knew this time that it was not a relic of my childhood when I was smashing windows with my angry friends, but another childhood now buried beneath the rubble, coiled into itself. I say I woke up, but actually I didn't sleep for days. There's a line by Etel Adnan that says, quote, "To live by night is to live by ear, and the eye will follow." I find it a very helpful line in this endless night, for what makes the night is not the absence of light, but the mass of destroyed lives and unrealized longings. These nocturnal beings linger and persist. They insist on their belonging to this world and continue to exert their demands upon it, day and night. It is thus time to start living by ear and listen to their unvoiced longings. It is time to unwitness this fascist crime committed in the brightest hour of day. The bright light has simply become a white supremacist. Its sole purpose is to safeguard border control or the gates of settlements. Prisoners confined to minuscule cells and subjected to the relentless glare of 500-watt fluorescent bulbs know how dead and dark light can be. My friends are dead, and they have a simple plan, but simple is not easy. It is not easy to mourn the cities. It is not easy to go into hiding. Instead of accounting for the criminal light that everyone sees, it is easier, rather, to wait for the end of the world. Is actually to become a stone on expropriated land. I imagine that stones were once eyes who had silently and fiercely kept track of history since time immemorial. And because they never blinked, they never petrified. The stone is a negation of everything the bourgeoisie calls nature. The land we are summoned to is not nature. It is a sedimentation of struggles against naturalized violence. Sprouting from it are hardened stones that stick in the throats of those who use hunger as a weapon. I clenched my palm firmly and applied a magic trick I learned from my sheik. When I opened it again, the stone had become a word. Its 4 letters shivered every time I touched them. I kept the consonants for myself and carefully buried the vowels, which no one seemed to notice, in various corners of the city. Then I stood by in the dark, heart racing, waiting for the earth to tremble. I stood awaiting the roar of detonation that would shatter the eardrums of genocide apologists. I stood waiting for the dead humanity drenched in salt and face down on the shores of the Mediterranean, as you wrote, dear Rafat, to come back to life, but it didn't. Instead, I heard a bulldozer. They are building a lot in the city these days, transforming parts of their financialized capital into empty houses. People like you and me can only work on their construction sites, but cannot set foot in the buildings once they are built. But what I would like to describe is what surplus value sounds like. If property could speak, it would do so in this grammar: a long series of shocks maintained by efficient cooling system that prevents insurrection and resurrection. It is an omnipresence that shields the earth and shocks the nerves, leaving no room for any signal approaching from the past or the future. Property speaks in a language that can eloquently replace financialized capital with settler colonial capital. Replace the cooling system with anti-riot cops. Replace the worker sitting in the cabinet with a soldier desecrating graves. Or even, for that matter, replace both of them with the dead. Because all plans can be hijacked easily in the genocidal superstructure of language. One thing I would ask you, though, is what might a truer world look like, sound like? What truth is transmitted through unvoiced longing? In the meantime, I will spin to the messy rhythm in my ear and start all over again, and seed the vowels, hoping next time to hear the detonation. Thank you.